After you've completed a wash step, you're ready to add your next DNA part and DNA ligase. You'll need a pipette that can handle a 5 microliter volume, for example a P20, a DNA part, DNA ligase, and your bead tube. Pipette your desired DNA part into your bead tube. Gently release the liquid from the pipette tip by touching the side of the tube just above the bead pellet and gently flick. With a new pipette tip, pipette the 5 microliter DNA ligase into your bead tube in the same manner as the DNA part. Be sure to put the ligase back on ice. Flick the tube gently and make sure that the entire bead pellet on the side of the tube has been suspended. Now leave your bead tube with the new DNA part and ligase in it to rest at room temperature for 10 minutes. Just prior to the end of your 10-minute incubation, get ready to add blockers. Blockers work by attaching to the ends of any DNA on your beads that weren't bound up by your last DNA part. For example, when you add your first DNA part to the bead and anchor, your part didn't bind to all of the anchor parts, and so there's still some left free to bind to DNA in later steps. Don't worry, it's not you, it's chemistry. By adding a very high concentration of small DNA parts called blockers, you can bind up most, if not all, of the remaining unbound sites. After 10 minutes, you add an appropriate blocker. If you've just added an XZ part, use an X blocker because X blockers bind to X. But if you've just added a ZX part, use a Z blocker because Z blockers bind to Z. Wait for 2 more minutes after you add the blocker and then start your wash step. Just like when you washed your beads when they were first added to your tube, use a P200 to add 50 microliters of wash buffer to your reaction and complete the wash step. Remember to wash it twice. Your last DNA part is always going to be a cap, and you don't need to add the blocker when you're on the capping step. After you've added your last DNA part, the cap, and waited 10 minutes, you have to wash twice. You're now ready to do the elution step.